welcome to Creature Club, a podcast where we talk about the monsters and creatures in the tabletop role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons. I am Mikey DC, and my co-host here is Daniel White.
Hello.
No Tim today. He's
still
away.
lost. We can't find him anywhere.
Lost. He's gone.
He's gone
into the void.
The
ethereal plane?
Did you check in the ethereal? Yeah. Did you check behind the fridge actually?
No.
Okay. Well. Okay. Maybe after the episode.
Okay. Yeah, after the episode, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to spoil the recording, but we can do that afterwards.
Yeah. It's always the last place you look. But anyway. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna keep on going with the Creature Club train. We're gonna be covering the Cockatrice today. The
sort of like a rooster, almost like a rooster-sized dragon. Might be a good way to put it.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Kind of like gross looking, but
yeah, very gross looking. So in this book right here, he's a little rooster-sized dragon, as he said, but he has kind of like but he still has the rooster head, and he just kind of looks, a bit scary, bit of a mean-looking guy. But he's small, so he's not too intimidating.
Yeah, and not too dangerous.
The Cockatrice is a creature of myth. It's kind of it's been in a lot of things. It's kind of one of your go-to mythological creature. Like a lot of things have covered it. Like I know that there was one I remember there was one in Witcher 3 actually, but
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
that one was actually very, very big.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're right, actually.
There's the Witcher 3. I think in the Witcher book series, I think it was like one of the first ones Geralt fights, but I could be wrong with that. I think remember someone told me about that. And RuneScape apparently, yeah. I was just trying to find where Cockatrice has been, and it was in RuneScape. So there you go. And a bunch of things. So let's have a look. The Cockatrice is.
So I'll just do a very brief bit of history. So it sort of shows up around the medieval period. So what's interesting is like we covered before the basilisk, who kind of slightly predated it. It feels like the basilisk showed up a little earlier, and so in a way it's. I don't know if there is actually like a link in their stories in terms of cockatrices and basilisks are both kind of they're creatures. They're serpentine. They're both related to like roosters and crows and snakes, and they kind of have that sort of similar vein of mythology. So I have a suspicion, although I don't. It's not suggested on Wikipedia, and if it isn't suggested here, I assume that it isn't maybe well researched, that there isn't a link between them. But it feels a bit like there is, because they are both kind of creatures that are a bit like normal creatures, but they're hatched from like chicken or rooster eggs under weird conditions, and then they both also have stone abilities where they turn their victims into stone or kill them quickly.
Very much very similar things. So it can be you can easily theorize that they have come from the same myth, or someone like messed up along the way and mixed them up.
Someone mistranslated it, I think. There was
So from everything I've seen with the Cockatrice, how one is made is where an egg is laid and a toad has to incubate it.
Yeah, and then sometimes it's a snake instead or whatever. So it's weird.
But sometimes it's a Cockatrice,
it takes all sorts. Hashtag. I don't know what I'm doing with this. This joke is bad. I'm backing out.
It's all right. Yeah, back up. I know it says on the Witcher entry, I think in kind of like one of the journal things, it says that when a rooster cohorts with another rooster and lays an egg, and that's just like, here, man.
Here, we voted yes.
We voted yes, guys. Come on.
That joke doesn't work anymore because we had a second referendum.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Roosters can be roosters if you want. Don't
don't try to shame roosters. They can do whatever they like. It's 2018. Also, you can't say that anymore.
Yeah, and also actually another question: how? But never mind.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing where it talks about how the cockatrice is translated from an older Latin, which is based on the Greek ichneumon, which is like a weird thing, but it's interesting because it's attached to it used to wait for crocodiles to open its jaws for the you know, the way there's that like story of like crocodiles opening their jaws and birds picking their teeth clean,
Yeah.
which is apparently not true, by the way. There's like it's a sort of a like a biological version, like a sort of a anthropological version of a myth, effectively. Like there's no recorded instances of it actually happening. It's just something that was said a lot.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, so it seems like sorry. It is thought that a cock egg would hatch out as a cockatrice, and this could be prevented by tossing the egg over the family house, landing on the other side of the house without allowing the egg to hit the house. Like I love shit like that. It's literally my favorite thing. If you can throw the cursed egg over your house, then you're free. Congratulations.
Yeah. It's just they were so specific with it. Like some guy just made that up.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
ages ago,
Yeah.
years ago.
Fucking
like
literally one person just made it up, and everyone else was like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah." That's completely how it worked. I do think it's interesting. Actually, it mentions briefly that the cockatrice is comparatively rare in heraldry, which is cool, because that immediately makes me think about how that would be a nice way to make heraldry stand out if I had a noble house. Or like, you know, and even makes me think about the monsters in D&D as like cultural icons. You know what I mean? So like a big one is obviously dragons, but I always think putting dragons on your symbols is weird when the dragons are just like hanging out and they're like, "Are you drawing me?" You know what I mean? It'd be like if your like house symbol was just like Steve Buscemi. And then, like, Steve Buscemi is like, "Excuse me, that's my face. You can't do that." Like, that's
the thing is, though, you have many different cockatrices, though. Like, you don't have
Steve
like,
Buscemis.
you don't have loads of Steve Buscemis running around, putting him on the random encounter table, like, jumping over, you know, against the wall in a labyrinth, whatever.
You have a table of Buscemis, and it's like, do you run into like Mr. Pink or like Buscemi from the skit where he's like, "Hello, fellow kids." And he's like the most benevolent Buscemi, or Boardwalk Empire Buscemi. You know, it's all contextual, and then it's what's the danger level? What's the CR of this Buscemi?
We'll let you guys. We'll let you guys devise that. So the abilities of this, like, you know, we're going a myth. Basically, everything I see here, it says that he has a death darting stare. So that means he just, when he looks at you, kills you.
Yes, like the basilisk in Chamber of Secrets in Harry Potter, rather than kind of basilisk.
Very much so. So he looks at you, he kills you by looking at you, touching you, or sometimes breathing on you.
Yeah.
So there you go. Very much like the basilisk.
Yeah,
so,
very similar.
Like that goes back to what we were saying, where maybe there is a mix up along the way. But but obviously you can't have that kind of ability on a D&D monster, so they had to make it a little bit different. But let's how about we go on to the D&D guy?
Yeah, let's do that, because this D&D profile is the strangest profile we have ever encountered, I honestly think. For the people at home, especially those of you who don't have a monster manual, almost every like written section of a monster is broken up into several paragraphs. Each paragraph has its own heading that gives an idea about how the monster operates. The Cockatrice is the only example so far we have encountered that does not do that. It has a single block of text. There's no subheadings, and the block of text it gives is just like a very almost like a almost like sort of like an explorer's account. Like it feels very like biological. It feels very like ecological, like almost like a study of the creature rather than like a discussion about it, if that makes sense. It's almost like it's kind of formal, like, is how it feels. And obviously that's fine. That's in a lot of them. But the fact that there's like kind of no context, it doesn't talk about like how, say, the people of the world feel about these monsters, which it often does for mythological creatures and things like that.
Yeah. And I guess you can't. There's not too much lore and stuff you can get with a cockatrice.
No.
But they still put a lot on basilisks. So
Yeah, it is. That's what I'm thinking as well. Yeah, like it's very similar, but it's kind of weird.
Maybe they didn't want to like retread the same ground with that one. But yeah, I guess he's very much a guy who does exactly what it says on the tin. So it's good to keep it nice and small for this one. So yeah, let's hop in there, Dan. Let's see, what does it say?
All right. So, very briefly, it talks about how the cockatrice's appearance, and it says it is infamous for its ability to turn flesh to stone. So, that's kind of important. That's a nice, that's one of those, we've talked about this before, the idea of, like, explaining why your players know things about monsters in your world. So the idea here is, like, the cockatrice is infamous, so that even, for example, a peasant would know that about the cockatrice, so your players know, and you don't have to make them roll for checks. You can just tell them, oh, well, even without rolling, like, even the most ignorant of you knows this is the primary threat of the creature. They're an omnivore. They eat everything small enough that they can swallow. They would be no threat to anything else if not for their fierce and frenzied response to even a hint of danger. A cockatrice flies into the face of any threat. I know. Because it looks like a chicken, and you just imagine like a chicken going like hog wild at you.
Yeah.
Although in fairness, if it was like a goose or something, you'd be worried. A cockatrice flies into the face of any threat, squawking and madly beating its wings as its head darts out to peck. I know.
Ow! Stop it!
Stop it! The smallest scratch from a cockatrice's beak can spell doom as its victim slowly turns to stone from the injury. That is an exaggeration, but we will get to why that is an exaggeration.
Yeah.
So that's all the lore of the cockatrice. I'd rather jump straight into like encounters rather than kind of talking about this bit. So will we move on and just cover the stat block very quickly? Because it's
let's do it.
Short.
We'll go to stat block right now. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was a quick little.
Yep.
I'm gonna make that one quicker.
So like double time it.
Yeah, double time, dude. No, I just cut it earlier. I
That's fair.
Make it double time. Cool. So, all right, Cockatrice. He's a small monstrosity. So remember that one. So basically, he could be the size of a chicken or the size of even a goose. I think a goose might make it a little bit more.
I think goose is
threatening.
I mean, like small is the size of a halfling. So goose is probably fair.
Yeah, your halfling would be the size of a goose.
Oh my god.
So, he is unaligned, so he's not with any moral code. I don't know. He has 11 armor class. Hit points are 27. Speed 20. Fly 40. So
he can fly, which is kind of surprising. I honestly thought he would be a flightless bird.
But these are kind of strength 6, dex 12, con 12, 2 intelligence, 13 whiz, and 5 charisma. So all around, kind of
bad.
Yeah,
actually.
It's all shite.
Yeah.
That's why you kind of but okay, I'll keep going. Sense, dark vision, 60 feet. Passive perception, 11. No languages.
Yeah, unsurprisingly.
Challenge rating, half. And yeah, so I guess this guy kind of seems like you would throw a lot of these guys in the same encounter. Like a bunch of cockatrice.
Yeah, it's hard.
Fighting your guys.
It's a weird profile overall. It's so it hasn't got any abilities and it has one action, which is bite. Melee weapon attack +3 to hit, so not very likely to hit, to be honest. Reach 5 feet, unsurprisingly. It does a D4 +1 piercing damage, so literally like bad dagger hit. And then you must make a DC 11 Constitution saving throw against being magically petrified. On a failed save, so this is the classic kind of petrification rules of 5e. Your first failed save, you begin to turn to stone and you are restrained, and you must repeat the saving throw at the end of your next turn. If you succeed this one, you're fine. You're no longer restrained, you shake it off. But on failure, the creature is petrified. Now here's the rider for 24 hours. So when it says the smallest scratch from a cockatrice's beak can spell doom as its victim slowly turns to stone from the injury and then turns back the next day,
yeah, just sleep it off. You're grand.
Literally sleep it. Like drag Grog the Barbarian back to the base, leave them outside as a nice statue, let some birds poop on them, and then they'll wake up the next day and they're fine. Or
just tuck him in and he's just like, oh man, what happened last night? Yeah, dude, those cockatrice.
Yeah, so this is honestly, the cockatrice has such a weird stat line in my opinion. Its whole thing is so, because the thing is compared to the basilisk, which we covered before, I'm just going to go back. Wow, that's really convenient. I literally turned my page and turned right back to basilisk. I didn't even plan this.
It knows.
But the basilisk comparatively is a CR3 monster, which means that it's great for like a level 1 or level 2 boss fight, right? And that's
Yeah,
perfect for
yeah.
its ability, which is like scary and like very decisive. But it's also it has its own built-in weaknesses with the whole petrifying gaze can be countered by a mirror and stuff like that. So that's a great like kind of really early boss fight to get your players, in the mood for how the world is dangerous, but also like thinking about different ways they can fight monsters. And then comparatively, the Cockatrice is like CR 1/2, so it's literally the same CR as a orc. One like a orc and a Cockatrice are equally matched in battle.
Yeah.
And it has literally one ability, which is like a very small amount of damage. I mean, admittedly, it's CR 1/2, so that's fine. And then like a relatively low chance to turn someone to stone, and they have to make because of the fact that it follows normal petrification rules and gives you 2 saving throws, you're actually very, very likely to succeed. Because even if you fail that first save, it's very likely that you can succeed the second save for a bunch of reasons. First of all, it's a fairly straightforward saving throw, or like, so just statistically you're likely to succeed. But then also things like characters, helping you, and even something as simple as the inspiration rules. So one of the really, really unused rules for inspiration is that a player can actually give their inspiration to other players.
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
always an option. So someone else could say, I don't want them to get petrified, I'm going to give them my inspiration. And then if you've got advantage on that roll, you're basically guaranteed to pass because it's so straightforward.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall, it just feels like it's just weird. It's weird how it's simultaneously like low damage, low threat. Like the most dangerous thing it can do is turn you to stone. But according to everything here, even if it turns you to stone, because you're bigger than it, it's not going to eat you, and then you're just going to wake up after 24 hours.
Yeah. Is like all I'm thinking is this supposed to be some sort of like training basilisk where
That's a really good point, actually.
yeah, just kind of where you can petrify your like your mates are here to play a game of D&D with this. Their first time playing. You throw some of these guys at them. You don't want their characters to die, and you petrify them. They come back to normal after 24 hours, but you don't want to make it as final. But once again, if I was playing with players for the first time, I think that finality is fun.
Yeah.
It kind of shows them like this game's different than a video game.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, I think that there's something so valuable about early, like, players losing characters early as a way of realizing, like, oh, if I lose a character, they're gone. Like, they don't necessarily have as many preconceived notions about like how their character is precious and needs to be saved. So like they're kind of more willing to go, okay, well, like, what do we do now? And it's like, oh, you just build a new character, you just keep playing, and they go, oh, okay, cool. And then like they get to do the character building thing that they did before. But the funny thing about character building is like it gets more fun the better at the game you get. So like your first character, you're just kind of like, can I play now? Like,
yeah.
But like the second time round, it's like, oh yeah, so you know how some of the rules work. So which kind of like character do you want to make? And it's like, oh, like my friends seem to have a lot of fun with the rogue. Maybe I'll build another rogue, or like maybe I'll build a character who's like the rogue but's different, or like they have more of an idea of actually what they want.
I've seen plenty of times where someone's like making a character the first time and they're just like, oh, well, all right, whatever. I want this. I'll take this. Yeah, that sounds fine. But the second time, they're like, oh yeah, actually, this will be cool too, or this will be cool. You get into it the more characters you make. I think
On the subject of character creation, I started running for a new group, which I've mentioned before, and one of the players, when he made his character, named his character after himself, and it was really interesting because I was chatting to him about like his kind of what he grew up like doing and his influences if he was familiar with D&D, but he played a lot of like old school RPGs like Baldur's Gate and stuff, and so in those games you name your character after yourself. It's like it's what you always do when you play Pokemon. The character in the world is just called you, and like so what I kind of realized was like, oh, he's just doing what he's learned from video games, right? Which is, this is your character, what are you going to call them? Well, I'm just going to name them after myself because they're me. Like, that makes perfect sense. And I was like, oh, that makes, it's so interesting how, like, I'm so used to D&D, right, having its own rules and, like, no, the character is not you. But, like, if you're like, I'm just going to, this is just me, I'm just playing. It's like, yeah, absolutely, fucking do what you like. It's like, as long as you're having fun. Like,
yeah, like any video game, I always name them after, I always make me in a video game.
Yeah.
But, like, with I guess with D&D, people were always like, no, you have to make your own.
Yeah,
You have to make a different character. But like, I never even thought about that. But that
I
makes
know,
a lot of
right?
sense, though. Yeah,
It makes
like,
so much sense. It's just really funny.
I might make me next time.
It's me, Mike.
It me. Yeah. But that's like about going back to it. It being kind of a training basilisk. That's kind of just a small little hypothesis. Blah.
I know what
say
you
it
mean.
for me.
Hypothesis.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Thank you very much. That's just what I have. I feel like you can give him a couple more moves though. Like I was thinking like a shriek of some sort.
Oh, well, I think. Sorry, I think we've already done it. We've already gone to encounters. Do you just want to play the theme real quick? Just.
I gotta play it right now.
Okay, great. Okay, now it's official. So yeah, like, so baseline. I think that we can kind of agree the Cockatrice isn't a super interesting encounter. I'll tell you what actually immediately strikes me about it, because it's got a low CR, and because its petrification ability is only temporary. I think it would make a great ally to other monsters. So what I like is the idea that like it's kind of introducing a soft failure state almost.
Yeah.
So the idea.
And
sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, and this is probably kind of that way. This might be the idea you're going with, but I can picture him petrifying someone, and then the other monster just, either smashing your petrified guy or picking him up and eating him or something like the basilisk does. Something like, giving him like another, like, okay, he might come back. He's petrified, but like, but this other one is actually going to kill him. I was like, maybe even making some sort of like ecology with it, where this one petrifies him, and then so he can feed this guy. But yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking with that one. But did you have an idea?
I was actually going to suggest the total opposite. Not that I think that's a bad idea, but just the idea that so obviously if you want to do the reverse of what we said before, and the great thing about D&D is you can always like sort of cater to your players. So if you feel like your players won't enjoy being killed, a nice kind of alternative is to give the like orcs or bugbears or goblins like cockatrices as like kind of like semi-trained creatures, maybe not very reliably trained. Maybe have a fun thing where the players can maybe even turn the cockatrices against their masters, and that's a way they can make the fight easier. But even something as simple as you're losing the fight and the players decide to retreat, and one of the players is like wounded and dying, but rather than that character dying, you can say that like, oh, the cockatrice turns you to stone. Like the cockatrice bites you, and so your body petrifies. But that means that when you unpetrify, you'll still be alive. And like, you can have the party kind of do a nature check or ask a nearby like druid or kind of wild person who knows the wilderness better, like a ranger or something. And they'll say, yeah, well, everyone knows cockatrice venom wears out after 24 hours. And so now they know, okay, well, he was dying. That character was dying. So in 24 hours, they're going to go back to dying. So we need to get to them before then. So now they've got this fun like time window where they need to save their friend from the enemies who they were beaten by before, and now there's kind of more of a stake in it. So they have to figure out like, well, do we just rush them and try to get our friend out? Do we sneak in? Like, you can give them lots of different kind of opportunities, different ways to approach this new, very unusual encounter, because we're approaching that sort of space of going after objectives rather than just kind of kill the bad guys in the dungeon.
And also like it could be another good way of like capturing someone. If you ever need someone to be captured, like an NPC or even like a player, then like, petrifying him for 24 hours is a good idea, and then like, having like the orc men just tie him up and throw a net on him, shackle him up, and just say like, all right, we got you, you're with us now. So it's kind of a fun idea, but that's cool. That's a good idea, Dan.
But that idea that you suggested is cool as well. Like, you could even have it so that if you wanted to kind of impose this whole thing, you could have it that like maybe at one stage you fight goblins and they have like badly trained cockatrices who turn on the goblins and kill them, and you're like, this is hilarious. And then later on you fight like hobgoblins, and the hobgoblins have like actually properly trained the cockatrices, but also like they've got like cockatrice venom on their arrows, so they can like kind of petrify you at range, and suddenly it's like, whoa, okay, shit, like you know, like scaling up that danger.
Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. So I can't really think too much on this cockatrice in general, but actually I was looking up on There's been another similar D&D monster to a cockatrice called the Pyrolisk.
Okay.
I don't know if he shows up in either Volos or any of the new ones now, but he says he is. He basically looks like a cockatrice and kind of does the same stuff, but instead of killing you, he sets you ablaze. He's kind of like a fire cockatrice.
Okay.
So that's a different one. I know. The first thing that comes to my head as well is the Cockatrice from. It's a card in Munchkin. It's just a cockatrice with 2 heads. So if you want to do that, there's that one. Or the classic boring idea where I say, how about make them bigger? And that was in The Witcher 3. So if you played The Witcher 3, then just use that one.
That's all I think of. Whenever I think of Witcher, I think of the kind of the battle song where there's a woman like battle yodeling, and also the pose where like Geralt holds the sword over his head and kind of wiggles a bit. I can't remember what that was in like when it was like the stance-based fighting in the earlier games.
That was like Witcher 1 where he just holds it above your head, because apparently that's how you use a
it might be
how you use a greatsword.
That might be the truth, but it doesn't matter because it looks dumb.
It does.
And also, it's like I cannot detach that from like whenever someone says The Witcher, I just immediately think of like and then it kind of like Geralt like battle wiggling a bit with the sword over his head, like it just jumps into my head like completely.
Yeah, you battle yodel and then you hold the sword above your head every time.
It's so good, man.
But the cockatrice in that is also called a shrieker. So he kind of has like a shriek attack. So
he does. You're right. Yeah.
He just kind of shrieks at you and he knocks you over. You get knocked over, hits you. But you can do something like that again. Actually. That might be cool. Where, I know it's not like you're not having huge or big cockatrices in this one. But if you had some sort of shriek, then maybe it knocks you prone. That can be kind of
that makes sense.
Thing. Yeah, or actually just deafens you, or like gives you a disadvantage because it deafens you, like because if it's a small one, because it's such an ear-piercing.
Oh, that's cool. Noise. I like that, using it. Like using the size as like part of it. That's a cool idea.
And just like something like something that you can use that can be bad for. Like, because you'll be using this guy for like very early level stuff. Something that's kind of a bit of an inconvenience for early levels. Just giving them disadvantage for a round. That's kind of a cool thing to to add into the fight.
What you could do, or you're talking about using its size. Remember in Jurassic Park, there's like the really, really tiny like raptor things that kill the guy with the glasses who gets in the car and then they like spit venom on him. I can't remember that actor's name. It's not, it's not John Goodman. Guys. It's the other one. He's like John Goodman. If John Goodman was like 20 years younger.
He's Newman in Seinfeld.
Yes. I can't remember his name. I'm very sorry.
Wayne Knight.
Well done. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Good man.
I'd looked that up, man. Sorry.
No. Still, I wouldn't even know where to start. I would have literally Googled like your man from Jurassic Park, what gets killed by the small things.
Yes.
But on the subject of that creature, it's actually it is Wikipedia's article of the day, which I know because I always read Wikipedia's article of the day. Which is the Dilophosaurus. It's the one, so it's in the movie, it's able to spit venom, and it has like the kind of like cowl or hood, like a cobra. But you could do something like that. You could kind of mimic that idea that like it's small and it's kind of dumb, but like they fight in like packs, and maybe they can spit the venom at you, and so you have to make like a ranged saving throw. Although what I would say is I would probably impose some kind of rule. If I was having my players fight, say, a group of cockatrices, whatever. If I was having them fight a group, I might have some kind of rule about like, if you pass, the saving throw against the venom, then it can only it can only slow you instead of petrifying you. If that makes sense. Yeah. So the idea that like rather than every turn you have to play like, I eventually get petrified because I'm rolling so many saving throws. It's like if you succeed once. Instead, the venom is like half as effective on you, so you're only slowed instead of restrained or whatever.
I have this idea in my head of like a dungeon, where what you have, whatever you want in there. You can either have like what we were talking about with orcs, goblins, hobgoblins, and they have like they have cockatrice kind of as kind of pets, almost tamed. But I picture like this pit or like this kind of there's like this pit of cockatrice where they might throw down like the odd bit of food and stuff, or like kind of trash for them to eat. But I can picture your players like falling down some sort of chute and then just like in Jurassic Park and attacking it in packs. Just loads of cockatrices attacking it, and your players might be high level for this, but a lot of them could be bad. So like it could be like almost like a trap room, like
that's
room full
cool.
of cockatrice. Yeah,
That's very cool. I like that idea a lot, DC. The idea of using like acknowledging that almost the monster is so one note that it is more like a trap mechanic than a monster. That's actually really clever. I like that a lot. Using like, especially in like a like not like super high level, but like if your party are like between like 5th and 7th level, like where cockatrices aren't really that dangerous. But just the idea that like, oh, you'll just fall into a pit and there's like maybe like 7 of them or whatever, and it's like they just get loads of bites,
Why
and
have to
so
be snakes
statistically
kind of
maybe one person just has a bad roll and fails a saving throw. And like they're high enough level that it's like it's more of an inconvenience, right, than like a death sentence or whatever. But even just something that simple that like, okay, well now Grog is a stone man, so what the hell are we going to do? I mean, okay, we're just picking on Grog here. Grog is a barbarian. He's got a good con score. He's fine. He's not failing this saving throw. It's like the wizard or something that's going to fuck this up, or the rogue, or it's going to be like, I dump statted con because I have a bonus action disengage or whatever. And it's like, you idiot.
By the way, never dump stat con.
No, don't
never do that.
Unless
con is the best stat for any class, I think.
Yeah,
because it's health. It's more health.
Unless you're like hard theming into it, that like, I'm a sick old man. then I'm a sick old man. Why am I on this adventure?
I have a new character, guys. A sick old man.
A sick old man.
Oh, yeah.
That's his name, too. He just calls himself Sick Old Man. I don't expect him to last long. Let's not name him.
I'm sick old man. The third act old man.
Oh, fuck. That is, sorry, to our listeners, that is a reference to an excellent YouTube video called So This Is Basically Fire Emblem, which I would recommend.
It's a fun series.
It's a great series, and the one on Fire Emblem is very relatable.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that idea a lot. I like the idea of using them as kind of a trap. You could play with their stats. Interestingly enough, the earlier editions of Dungeons and Dragons gave cockatrices a greater intelligence. They kind of lost their intelligence in, I think, 3rd or 4th edition.
Okay.
Rip.
I'm just gonna I can have a look at 4th edition because they usually have fun little things.
I've got the 4th edition one open here if you want.
Okay, well I'm just gonna look it up on my own so I can read it. But go continue.
Yeah,
go
absolutely.
ahead and talk.
So it's very straightforward. It's basically exactly what you'd expect. The only interesting thing that the cockatrice has here, which doesn't have in 5th edition, which isn't necessarily very surprising, but is actually a good point. The cockatrice in 4th edition is immune to petrification. Which you would expect because it is a creature that petrifies things. But interestingly enough, this one does not have that, which I guess is arguably like not at all a big deal because who the hell has access to petrification anyway?
Yeah.
Like aside from very high level magic users. But it's just kind of it is kind of just a funny thing to read, like, oh yeah, right, that makes sense. And then of course 4th edition worked a little differently to 5th edition. So in 4th edition, you didn't have saving throws. Instead, you actually had like different defenses. So in the case of the cartridge's bite is that it bites you and deals some damage, and then it tries to make another attack where it attacks your fortitude, which is basically like your con saving throw. It attacks that defense like statically, like your AC, and if it passes, then you start making saving throws. And if you fail enough, you turn to stone. Although this one doesn't have the time limitation. This is permanent. Although it is a slightly more dangerous monster in 4th edition. It's a little higher level.
Yeah, it's a level 5 guy, so I think it goes up against level 5 of your guys.
No, I think it's like,
how did it go again?
I think if I recall correctly, it's like it is a level 5 creature, but you use its XP to determine what it should be fighting. So it's worth 200 XP, which I think means that it would probably be like a boss for a second level party, or maybe even a first level party if they're good enough.
A boss. He's still small. He is still the same size.
Yeah.
As the
Oh
one
yeah.
in this one.
Ah!
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah. Again, really, it's more supposed to be like kind of. I think, like you say, like the idea of like it jumps you in a dungeon, and you're like, oh Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, I love that it says here that he has a speed of four spaces, because in fourth edition it's done with like squares.
Yeah, squares, 5 foot squares rather than feet. Yeah.
He has 4 squares and fly 6. Clumsy,
yeah.
So I'm just picturing flying like a chicken, where it's like, and then like, oh god,
or like a cuckoo in Legend of Zelda. You jump off things and use it as like a parachute.
Yeah. That's cool. That's a good idea. Using your Cockatrice for that.
Oh, the other thing, sorry, is there is a bit of Cockatrice lore, and one thing that's cool about 4th edition is it goes, when it provides lore, it gives a DC check. So it says nature DC 12. And then it says the lair of Cockatrice is filled with broken statues of previous victims, which include various wild animals. In the wild, the soft ground of a cockatrice's lair is filled with short tunnels and hollows that a cockatrice can use when attacked. So that gives some cool ideas for an encounter. The idea that it's using this environment against you, that could be kind of interesting. I don't know how, because it moves slower than the players, but bless it can try.
Yeah.
And then nature DC 17. So this is a lot more interesting. We can actually use this. Feathers freshly plucked from a cockatrice can be mixed with mud to create a poultice that reverses petrification when spread over an affected creature. The method requires a DC 20 heal check to spread mud and 30 minutes, and it is successful only if the poultice is applied within 24 hours of the petrification. One cockatrice provides enough feathers to create a poultice for one petrified creature. I like that it's like feathers and mud.
Yeah,
it's like mud is just water and dirt. What are you talking about?
Quick, use the mud. Like,
quick,
not just water. No,
mud. No, it has to be mud. They have to smell bad by the end of it.
Yeah, that's just a funny little thing to put in there.
It's interesting that it is feathers. To me, that is really interesting, and that gives me actually the opposite idea. The idea that you could like, it's like feather, like almost like you could say like arrows fletched with cockatrice feathers naturally apply the venom. That could be cool.
Yeah.
Like that's how you make petrifying arrows.
And actually might be a very cool thing to put into your 5th edition game. Something like that for like Monster Huntering this monster, where you can do that. Like get the feathers. It actually helps with healing, you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just a good, like, you know, it's good for the skin, you know? It's good for the exfoliation.
Will we Monster Hunter this thing all up then? Because we're
sure. I don't have many other ideas, but that was the only one that came to my head when reading that. But
trap it in a cage and use it and point it at people. Pew pew.
Yeah.
No, what I'm thinking is like. So yeah, sorry. You could say that arrows from the cockatrice or other parts of the cockatrice can cure the petrification. There, like the obvious one would be blood, or feathers, as this thing suggests, which is kind of interesting. You could do some cool stuff, like you could say like the feathers of a cockatrice can be used to like write something, and when they write something, maybe something cool like cockatrice feathers can write on stone.
Yeah,
like as if it was a quill, right? Like they can just scratch into it, like as if there's no resistance. That could be kind of cool, because then they can like they can be used to leave messages and kind of like fun things like that, which can be kind of like small and the players might enjoy. You could say that maybe that like if you could have some kind of occult things where maybe like if a hag can get their hands on some cockatrice feathers, if they like write the name of an enemy in like in under a full moon, because it has to be a full moon obviously, at midnight, because that's the best time for it. They can, if they write someone's like name, it's like the death note basically, and like it petrifies the person regardless of where they are and what they're doing.
Right, that's
so it's like a long range petrification, but like there's some ritual that needs like cockatrice feathers, because they're the creature that is like petrifies with its with its bite, and you need the feathers, and maybe you also need like the eye of a basilisk and the yeah, I'm out of ideas.
Yeah, that's right.
I was like the stalk of a beholder, but that's kind of high. That's kind of like, oh shit, escalated.
Yeah, like we have to get that as well.
Oh
That's
fuck!
like,
All right, well, just kill them ourselves. It's easier.
yeah.
Pay me like 7 gold. I'll do it myself. I'm in it for the thrills. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So yeah, you could use the feathers for other kind of unusual things. As I said before, fletching them to an arrow to make kind of like petrifying arrows would be cool, or petrifying bolts, of course. The creature itself, I kind of like the idea that when a cockatrice starts to die, it self-petrifies.
Okay.
And maybe you can use that to do something cool. Like my weirdly, 'cause I think just 'cause I'm talking about ranged weapons like bows and arrows and stuff, my immediate thought was that you would use a petrified cockatrice as a gun. You'd basically use like its body as like a rifle, effectively.
Okay. And
Is
you
that
shoot.
good? Is that is that anything?
How? Okay. How does that? It's okay. It's a fun idea, Dan. But how does that work?
So when it
How do you-
dies,
what are the bullets?
it starts to self petrify, and so you get it as it's dying. You like straighten it out, and then you gotta
Yeah.
like pull out the spine because that's not doing any favors, and then you just replace the spine with a rifle with a gun, and then it's a gun. Is that anything? Is that good?
That's a. It's not your best. It's not your best work.
It's not my
Dan.
best work. I don't think it is either. If that helps at all.
What if gun? Nah, you can do that. I guess if you really want to.
It might be a cool artifact weapon if
Yeah.
you worried less about explaining how it worked and more just had it be a thing, like a rifle made out of a well, it looks like it's made out of a petrified cockatrice, and its bullets petrify like the cockatrice's ability.
I can picture like going what you said, where the cockatrice petrifies itself when it dies, and keeping it as a statue. But I wouldn't know what that statue does, but maybe there could be something like, oh well, the dead body of a cockatrice having around has like magic value, but
Oh, maybe something like like shrunken heads and stuff like that. Maybe the idea could be like, the petrify the like cockatrice kind of like shrinks and self petrifies when it dies, so it kind of shrinks to a much smaller size, even smaller than it already is, and
Yeah.
like it's easier to carry around, and maybe like it can be used as a spell component, or even like maybe even something like, oh, you can also just like add it to some, like you can like you can like, this is kind of gross, but you can like throw it into like boiling water, and like the solution it makes is like a cure for petrification.
oh yeah, I can picture in like like an old witch's house.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking too.
Like,
Yeah.
all those kind of components might be just a fun thing to put in there. Yeah, that's cool. Anything else? I don't really have anything else on him. He's a very basic guy. I don't think we can't really go an entire hour episode on him. I think
the last thing I can think of is it would be cool. I know it's a small creature, so maybe save this for your smaller adventurers, right? Like this would be cool. This is actually, I think a halfling rogue would love this, right? If you had something where they can take the wings of a cockatrice, right, and make them into a cape, and then the cape lets them transform into a gargoyle.
Okay.
But like a stone
cool.
gargoyle, so they can like blend into urban surroundings and like spy on people and things like that.
Ooh, yeah, kind of like a. The first thing I'm picturing now is like that Dark Souls spell where you turn into a statue.
Yes. I'm totally thinking that now as well. Yeah.
I'm picturing it that where you can just like you stand and then you just turn to a gargoyle and you're completely still, and then it's just like but if you move they know where you are, but if you're still you're fine.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
That could be cool. And then I think you can just say like it's too small to work for like medium adventurers, so they have to be small. Or you can just say it's just a kind of stupid looking half cape, but it's still got magic powers.
Do you want to wear a half cape? Yeah, sure.
Are you sure?
Yeah, and also maybe just using the beak, if you can make some sort of like dagger out of that, you can have like a petrifying dagger.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, just something super straightforward.
maybe it only does it for 24 hours. So maybe that can, like, it does the same stuff that his bite does. So maybe you can use that for that petrifying dagger for, like, as I said before, like maybe capturing people.
Oh, that's cool.
Like,
yeah.
We petrify them for 24 hours, figure out what we're going to do with them, and then maybe question them at the next day or whatever. That kind of stuff. But just
that'd be a really cool item for like some bounty hunters, actually. Like a
yeah,
cockatrice dagger, like the head honcho has like, you know, this kind of like, and even you could make it like less of a dagger and more like a stick with an open cockatrice mouth on the end, and it's almost more like you like stamp people with it almost like documentation. Take them away, boys, and then.
But I'm just literally thinking of taking that bite stat block and just giving it to your players. That like so you either like having a little stick with the beak on it, having like daggers made out of the beak, having like anything like that, but just kind of using that stat. Like my favorite thing about monster hunting this monster is like taking the monster's abilities and giving them to your players.
Yeah, I mean, on that subject, you could even have like a gauntlet with the beak, and just have like once a day you can bite someone with it.
Yeah,
just like you just unarmed strike, do the bite,
or like a helmet for like a halfling. Like
it would have to be like a
and
small
then it's just
creature,
like it's just his head inside the cockatrice's mouth, and just the beak is open.
Yeah, that'd be cool. It could give you the like dark vision ability, and actually, you know, it'd be cool if it was a helmet. It could give you dark vision, and it could also give you immunity to petrification.
Oh yeah,
because that's a nice thing where it's irrelevant 90% of the time, but the 10% of the time it's relevant, you feel amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like that one time the party actually fight a Medusa, and you're like, yeah, I'm acing it. Like, you know, I'm having a staring contest with this one. Like, yeah, whatever.
Yes.
No rules, baby.
Yeah, and that's what, like, because that's very much like if you don't have a Medusa after that, then it's just a dropped Chekhov's gun. Like, you just have to, you have to use it at some point. I think we're okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it.
So thanks for joining us for Cockatrice, guys. He's a very, like, if you guys had monster manuals at home, then you just have a look at this page. It's don't have a whole lot to work with,
it is,
but,
like,
you know.
To put it into perspective, this page is about, I would say, 65% blank space and the cockatrice art.
Yeah.
In comparison to almost every other page in the monster manual. It is so different. It's very, very surprising. But I think, like, especially what you said, DC, about using it almost as a trap, has really made me appreciate the idea that, like, there is kind of a value in having a one-trick pony monster that's like super one-trick and literally has like one thing they do.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, and obviously, like, it's not that I didn't think that before, but I think it's a good way to think about it. The idea that, like, yeah, the cockatrice isn't the most exciting monster. It hasn't got the deepest lore or like the best set of abilities. It's not gonna be the encounter that, like, you know, is super memorable forever. But it'll be like fun and different and interesting, and you might get some cool items out of it if you're interested in that kind of thing. So yeah,
and if you haven't listened to it already, listen to our Basilisk episode.
Yes.
We tread the same ground a little bit with that one, and he's kind of a better monster for all this kind of stuff. But the cockatrice has its own kind of things you use for it, like as I said, the trap, just for smaller scale stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, and I think what you said as well about the idea of it being a training basilisk is actually a very good point as well. Yeah,
you can use them however you want. Cool. So that's him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do all that sign off stuff.
Yeah, and we should just pre-record this.
I think so. Yeah. Hey.
Sorry. So we have a website, which is creatureclubpodcast.com. You can find our episodes uploaded there every week. You can comment on them. You can follow it on WordPress. I don't know what that does. I'm sorry. I'm not very good at this.
But you can subscribe. He can subscribe to us on iTunes or whatever podcast software you use. It's kind of all the same stuff.
Yeah, the RSS feed is linked on the site, so you can find it there. You can also find us on Podcast Addict and things like that, which is how I get our podcast. We have a Gmail, which is creatureclubpodcast@gmail.com. We are always, literally always, it keeps us up at night waiting for homebrews. we're interested in home. we're, we're interested in homebrew monsters, even just concepts. You don't have to have like a full, like sort of properly laid out stat block. Don't worry about that stuff. Just cool concepts, magic items, even encounters, even like encounter ideas you might have. And we'd like to do kind of an episode about all that stuff and kind of, you know, bring it all together. Maybe even like the carrion moth. For those of you who know, we did an episode on the carrion crawler, and I did a brief description of the carrion moth and kind of expanded on it. We might do something like that when we do all the homebrews, kind of collate them into one document and then kind of share that out for people, obviously with people's permission. Jeez, of course. And on that, if you find a homebrew that isn't yours but you think we'd enjoy it, then just send it on, and if you can, just credit whoever made it, and we'll make sure that we mention them in the podcast.
Wow, you said it all.
Sorry,
it's all been said.
Tim is still gone for another 2 weeks.
Yeah, or so. He might be.
He might be joining us.
He's good. We're gonna try and get him. We're gonna try and phone him in.
Yeah, to break kayfabe a bit. He's just over in America, and he's just setting himself up and things like that. So we might have him next week. We certainly hope to.
And next week, hopefully, definitely, because this is kind of, I think Tim really likes this guy, so we're definitely going to make sure he's here for him.
Yes.
But we're going to do the Coatl.
The Coatl. The close friend of mine, and someone you know, and person who does not listen to the podcast, but I think this episode will get them to, Shane. He's a big fan of the Coatl, so I'm hoping that this episode, because Shane has said that like the thing about him is that weirdly, like, and he weirdly is his words, not mine. He says like, I'll listen to a podcast if it's in video format, and it's actually better if the video is just a still image. It's just something about like, he finds it way easier to concentrate on, like, you know, starting literally like a podcast on YouTube and just leaving the still image up than just having it play in the background. He just says like, if I play it in the background, I just don't hear it. Which is, I mean, it's not unreasonable, but I'm like, Shane, we're not setting up a YouTube channel just for you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So we will see if the because he's a big fan of the Coatl, so we'll see if having it in our catalog will entice him into the world of podcasts.
Yeah, hopefully. And if we don't do that next week, we'll do something else.
We will. Actually, on that subject, if there's anything you want us to record, any particular things you have interest in, if you'd like us to do a treasure trove, if you have a villain squad you'd like us to look into, if you have any like sort of more abstract ideas you'd be interested in just hearing our opinions about, or just questions for us, we can just do that. It's kind of open season at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, I was once again breaking kayfabe with this, but I was trying to record an episode by myself because we were kind of it was coming to deadline. I was trying to get an episode out, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and do it myself because you did it, Dan. And then I started it, got like 5 minutes in 5 different times, and I just didn't like the sound of it and how I was talking, so I was like, nah, I can't do this. So
I mean, I think like, I don't know if I've said this before on air, but I still think the episode I recorded by myself is terrible. I think it's a great soporific. I think it's a great way to put yourself to sleep. Because the whole time I'm talking really quietly because I'm falling asleep. I don't know if you can tell. It's probably quite obvious.
You are. Yeah, there's been plenty of times where you actually start to fall asleep.
There is literally. I did not do a very good job editing that. I like did 2 runs of it, but there's literally like, I think I edited out like 2 minutes where I actually fall asleep and wake back up. So it's not my proudest work, but it was just something to fill the space.
No, it was grand. I listened to it. So.
Just fair enough. I think I used it like with. I think I played it for Naomi when she was trying to take a nap because I thought it would make it easier. I think it did. Actually, on the subject of recording and breaking kayfabe and other stuff to mention, you released a new single recently, and everyone should go listen to that.
Okay. Well, Daniel said it. I wasn't going to say it, but it's...
screw you, man. It's called Not My Day, and it's by you on your own. It's your kind of solo label, which you are calling Freaky Love Cult.
Yep, Freaky Love Cult. We're on Spotify, we're on Google Play, we're on iTunes, we're on Apple Music, we're on Tidal. I made sure we are. I ticked the box that says we're on Tidal. So
if you have Tidal, would you check? That would actually be really useful.
We asked this already, but just please check.
Just,
Let us know.
it would actually be like no joke. It would be really handy if someone was like,
Yeah.
I've actually got title. I can
And
confirm.
also, if you're Jay-Z, let us know as well.
If Jay-Z listens to this podcast, yeah, let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah, listen to it, guys. I put a lot of work into it. I'm happy to be writing songs myself again and kind of being the front man. But yeah, so give it a
It's
listen.
great. It's a great tune.
I like it as well. It's called "Not My Day" by Freaky Love Cult. You'll know it. There's a picture of my dog on the album cover. He's a black Labrador.
I was going to mention that. Yeah, your album cover has a great picture of Cyrus out in your garden.
Yeah.
So it's all upside.
So it's all good stuff.
It's all good.
Enjoy. Anything else, Dan, that we gotta push
no,
out?
I think we're good. Is there anything else? No, I think we've covered literally everything. We mentioned the Gmail, we mentioned the homebrews, we mentioned your single, we mentioned where Tim is. Yeah, I think we have solved all the mysteries of the podcast.
Every single plot hook has been
Tied up. No Chekhov's guns have been left lying on the floor.
Yeah.
Because that is actually a safety risk.
Yeah, we have picked them up, we have shot them, we put them back on the table. So yeah, cool. Join us next time, guys, for whatever we're doing. It's kind of a strange week whenever we're trying to find out what we're doing. But whatever. There'll be a show for you guys, whatever it is. So thank you very much. I have been Mikey.
And I've been Dan.
Stay cool.